Hello? Were you intending to come to the first or the second service? Come on, who got caught out? Nobody. Yeah. I'm making up stories about you right now in my head. Because that's what the topic is, right? Your mind and how to use it. So I'm going to invite you to read some phrases with me right now. Now, if these are not yet true for you in your life, try to imagine what your life might be like if they were true. Imagination is a wonderful and beautiful thing to use, and sometimes these statements can prompt us into identifying with their meaning together. I am more than the circumstances of my life. I am experiencing the material world through the lens of spiritual perception. I am one with Spirit. Spirit within me is calm. Spirit within me is clear. Spirit within me guides me. I enjoy encouraging myself and others. I duplicate the love of Spirit in my thinking. I'm learning to think in a way that brings joy. I'm connected to a source of infinite ideas. I'm connected to an endless flow of inspiration. These are key thoughts from our message today, and we'll come back to them a little bit later on. See, last week we started to explore this idea that you and I are all connected to divinity. And the reason why it's so important to get that on a deep level is because the awareness of being connected to something larger than what we are, something infinite and powerful, is what lets us rise up above the world's duality and bring us to a place where we can say with confidence, I am more than the circumstances of my life. And I'm experiencing all these circumstances, this material world, through this spiritual filter, my perception, so that when drama strikes, we can respond from that spiritual awareness within, saying, Spirit within me is calm. I might not be on the outside. Or when confusion arises, we can respond saying, and there is that within me, which is very calm. Or when we literally don't know what to do, we can turn to this idea and the witnessing presence within it and say, there is something within me that does know, and knows that it knows, and it guides me. And this is how we learn in this teaching to use our minds. I've always wondered, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a user manual for my mind? But then, I don't know about you, if there was a user manual, I probably wouldn't read it. I'll just go right ahead and use the device, then figure out later why it's not working the way it was intended. You all know, many of you know our colleague from Kansas City, Dr. Chris Michaels. He wrote a beautiful little book called The Power of You, and in it, there's a whole chapter, Your Mind, a user manual. Who knew? So we can just use that, see if it leads to a better use of our mind. Here are the points in the chapter. You don't really have a mind. What a relief. You use a mind. There's no off switch, so stop looking. You will hear voices. You're not going crazy. Think about things that bring you joy. Stay tuned, because more will come. So let's start at the beginning with number one. You don't really have a mind, you use a mind. Now, in the 1800s, I think 1840s, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a beautiful little essay titled History, and in it he says there is one mind common to all individuals, and that has really become a central point in our teaching. There is one mind common to all of us. So the way we can express it is that thing that you call your mind is really your connection to the one mind. Yes, you are an individual thinker, yet the power that your mind has to create and solve and choose and love doesn't come from you personally. It comes through your use of the one mind. It flows through you. It comes from the same source that everything comes from. So things like brilliance and creativity and invention and art and inspiration and ideas and love, it's not personal. It's not just you. It's coming through you. It doesn't come from people. It comes through people from the one source of all. So we might say one mind, one intelligence, multiple applications. Cotton can explain it. Cotton can be used to create all kinds of things. I made a little list. Perhaps you could add some things to it. Sheets, bags, bedspreads, curtains, washcloths, rugs, furniture, towels, t-shirts, underwear, felt, trousers, carpets, fishing net, tents, paper, banknotes, coffee filters, bookbinding, even gunpowder. And it can produce oil. It can be used for animal feed. It produces medicinal products and cosmetic products, and it can be used as a foundation for types of margarine, soap, and candles and detergents, and more. And it all starts with this little ball that grows on the end of a plant. You might say in its raw state, it is pure potential. Unexpressed potential. And we can do apparently anything with it, and probably we have not exhausted all of the uses we can make out of it. It's how we use it that makes it either useful or not useful, good or bad, benevolent or harmful. I like to think of one mind in that way. In its raw state, it's pure potential. Unexpressed potential, and how we use it is how we make good or bad, right or wrong, benevolent or harmful, and we probably have not exhausted all of the ways we can use mind. There's a key idea in understanding all of this from Ernest Holmes. So close is the union of creation with the Creator that it is impossible to say where one begins and the other one leaves off. You got to pay attention. It's gone. It's like the musicians, the piano, the musician, and the music. Where is one and where is the other? Or like a dancer doing a dance. Where is the dance and where is it in relationship to the dancer? Or you and your life, where does one begin and the other one end? Your mind and one mind. It leads to a prediction. Are you ready? It goes quickly. When the knowledge of this oneness comes alike to all, the tread of armies will cease, and the bugle call will echo the soft notes of familial love. It leaves me with a question. Where in my thinking can I more consciously nurture this awareness of oneness? Number 2. There is no off switch, so stop looking for it. We can't turn our connection to the universe off, the universal mind. Our contact with the universal mind is permanent, cannot be interrupted, and sometimes I just wish it weren't so. Don't you? Sometimes, I like to think that there are exceptions. There should be exceptions for me, especially when I'm grumpy. When I'm thinking mean-spirited thoughts about someone, I'd like to imagine in those cases my mind is not part of the one mind, because I know how toxic the content of my mind can be, and I don't want it to count. It's just me. Nobody else? Whatever. See, I do believe in the creative power of mind like you do. But every now and then, can I please throw the off switch? Because I'm about to get into, what's that phrase? Some stinking thinking. And I'd like to be uncoupled from the creative process of the universe. It leaves me with a question. Where in my life do I believe that my thinking doesn't matter? Number 3, you will hear voices. You're not going crazy. Oh, but they can make you crazy, depending on which ones you're listening to. Right? I mean, because I think the voices are made up of the chatter that is the result of our shared experience. We're connected through it, but we're also connected to one mind. I mean, what are we going to listen to is really the point. Oh, there's so many conversations in my head. On Wednesday night at the service, and I love Wednesday night services. They're so lovely and intimate, and there's food. I love that. Anyway, I was sharing on Wednesday night that there are stories in my head, and some stories lead to a joyful experience, and some lead to a not so joyful experience, which is why two people can experience the same event differently, depending on what stories they're telling themselves about the event. And the example I used was that of tax time coming. Tax time is coming. And so I tell myself, oh, here it comes again. And I'm not fully prepared. And it's going to be a bother. And there are more important things I need to be using my time for. And I'd rather be doing something else. And I can feel the tension percolating and the apprehension is creeping in. And I can feel the procrastination mechanisms being piled up. Anybody? Okay, now we're talking. A few people identify. But do you know that I have a friend and she has got a different story about tax time that she tells herself? She tells herself that it is a delightful experience. She tells herself that she enjoys tax time because it is like spring cleaning for her. It's when she gets things in order. She tells herself it is the opportunity once a year for her to celebrate just how much she has financially contributed to her society. So come tax time, one of us is going to have a more joyful experience than the other. Some of the voices carrying stories in my head lead to anxiety and others to joy. And when I'm anxious, I look around for other people I can enroll who are of the same opinion as me, because you know how misery loves company. And then I feel more solid, and then my belief becomes more true, and then the story is more real. Yeah. Another example I used was that of my car. My car is a 2005 model, but it's 2016 now. And I haven't really considered a newer model because I tell myself that shopping for a car is a nightmare. I tell myself that the car salespeople are smarter than me and that they are going to successfully trick me. I tell myself so many stories about the experience of buying a car, and it's all based on fact, collaborated and tabulated with other people's experience, so I know it's true, that it's almost paralyzing, and I won't start looking for a car until something forces my hand. Now, I have a friend. He tells himself a different story about shopping for cars. He says it is delightful. He loves shopping for cars, whether he needs one or not. New car, used car, he'll just window shop for cars. He tells himself he knows how to research, compare information, and understand it. He tells himself that he is smarter than the salespeople. He loves shopping for cars. It's exciting. It's a sport for him. It's entertainment. His stories around shopping for cars is working for him. Mine are not. Now, it doesn't really matter what the scenario is, whether you're shopping for a car or doing taxes or going on a first date or losing weight or going to the dentist, having a difficult conversation. Because life is going to be what life is. How we experience it, though, has something to do with the voices in our head. And being able to identify which ones to listen to. A fable speaks of a wise man sitting outside the gates of a city, and a traveler comes up to the man and says, "Sir, can you tell me what kind of people live in this city? Because I'm relocating, and before I move in there, I want to get a sense of what kind of people live there." And the wise man says, "What were the people like in the city you came from?" And he says, "Oh, that's the reason why I'm leaving. They were mean-spirited, they fought with each other and bickered, there was corruption." And the wise man looks down and says, "I'm sorry to tell you that that's exactly the type of people you'll find in this city." And of course, he moves on, and the wise man continues to sit, and another traveler comes by and says, "Sir, can you tell me what kind of people live in this city? I'm relocating, and I want to be sure of where I'm moving to." And the wise man says again, "Can you tell me, sir, what were the people like in the city you came from?" And the traveler's eyes glaze over, and he says, "Oh, it is not because of the people I'm leaving. They were beautiful. They were wonderful. They cooperated and loved each other, and there was a sense of genuine affection." And the wise man breathes and says, "I'm happy to tell you, sir, that those are exactly the people you will find in this city." See, it leaves me with a question. Where in my mind can I tell different stories about life? Next. Think about things that bring you joy. Now, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination. I'm going to ask you to try to imagine that your mind is supposed to be used to bring you joy. That is exactly how it was designed to be used. Imagine that. And then, as an experiment, go right ahead and try to use your mind in such a way that it brings you joy. Another prediction. If you do, when you start to use your mind in a way that it was intended to be used, you're going to experience a shift in your inner and outer language. You're going to start getting used to the results of a mind used in the appropriate way, and you're going to start to find yourself enjoying, encouraging other people and yourself. You're going to start to find yourself losing interest in criticism of every kind. Truly, if you want to find your way back to your authentic self, if you think you've lost your way, this is a sure and wonderful way to go about it. Focus on thinking in a way that brings joy into the world. Now, maybe you're saying, "I can't do that right now because things are too stressful in my life." But each one of us can start wherever we are and expand from there. We can look for some joy and then use our imagination to expand it. Maybe you saw the CBS News story. What is that show? On the Road with Steve Hartman. The story of the little boy, 4 years old, his father died. Then 2 years later, his mother died in her sleep. So at 6 years of age, he's dealing with that. And then he says, "I'm just tired of seeing so many people so sad." So he asks his guardian, his aunt, to buy him some toys, little toys, because he's got a mission. He wants to go to downtown Savannah, Georgia, and he wants to give the toys out to people. He targets the people who are not smiling because according to him, he knows exactly what will bring smiles to their faces. Rubber duckies and dinosaurs. And he says in the interview, "Of course I'm still sad that my parents died. Anyone can die, anyone." And in the video, it's so beautiful. Some of the people that he targets and gives his gift to, they're so moved, so emotionally touched that the 6-year-old orphan would give something away with no expectation of anything in return. And as the interviewer says, it's by no means a fix, but the little boy, this beautiful soul, has connected with a purpose for himself that is birthing joy in the midst of a tragedy. It leaves me with a question. Where in my life is joy waiting for me to birth? It's a little bit. Next, stay tuned. More will come. Why? Just the other day, the storm knocked out my internet connection. Oh all life came to a screeching halt. I don't know how I was going to do anything. You know what I mean? That's basically what happens to me when I lose my connection to the divine. Except that you and I can never lose our connection to the divine. It's permanent. It's not like an internet connection. But I sure can get distracted. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Looking for answers in places where answers cannot be found. Looking for love and connection and depth and meaning in things that are temporary and pass away. Using comparison to try and feel worth. Oh my goodness. So spiritual living for me is about staying conscious of the connection that is permanent, so that I can remind myself, I am connected to a source of infinite ideas. Yes, I am connected to an endless flow of inspiration. And it all grows in the end like a little white ball of a plant. And staying open is how I make myself available to the more that will come, the greater yet to be, the as yet unexplored potential. So here's the summary. You don't have a mind. You're making use of a creative power that is limitless, and it's one that you are constantly connected to and can never disengage from. And its right and proper use is to release joy. Now let's go back to those words we started with. And keep in mind, if they are not yet true for you in your life, try to use your imagination to think of what your life might be like if these were true statements for you. Together. I am more than the circumstances of my life. I am experiencing the material world through the lens of spiritual perception. I am one with Spirit. Spirit within me is calm. Spirit within me is clear. Spirit within me guides me. I enjoy encouraging myself and others. I duplicate the love of Spirit in my thinking. I am learning to think in a way that brings joy. I am connected to a source of infinite ideas. I am connected to an endless flow of inspiration. And let us use this as the source material for our prayer time. So I invite you to breathe in. And as you exhale, let your eyes close as we acknowledge this one infinite mind, this eternal, immortal, everywhere present intelligence that we are connected to, that we are part of, in which we move and breathe and live and have our being, so that we may, by means of this prayer, establish that our love is its love, that our ability to create is its creativity, that our ability to choose and think and decide is its intelligence, that we are channels for the intelligence and the wisdom and the beauty, the light of creation to flow through. So we disengage ourselves from any erroneous thoughts that make us think we are less than or need to deserve or earn our place in the universe. Instead, we land on this beautiful idea that it is right and good and true for us to use our minds to birth joy in this world. And we land on that with innocence, with childlike joy, remembering that it is indeed that simple. It is indeed that straightforward. And so as we are remembering the right use of our minds, we realize that it is not only for ourselves, but it is for our friends and our families, our children and our parents and our neighborhood and our leaders in our country and all beings and this planet and beyond and beyond and beyond, because such is the nature of joy. It is of God, and it multiplies itself and spreads in every direction as soon as we release it to flow through us. We delight in this and celebrate it and allow ourselves to be lifted up by it. And also, we acknowledge the spiritual law of mind that governs the universe, so that as we release this word of prayer into it, we understand full well the way things work. We are being established right now in our prayer, in the concept of our prayer, in the outcome. In other words, we are changed. And so it is.